Hello and good morning to everyone. For today's my presentation topic is Deconstructivist Architecture and Architectural Reflection of Derrida's Deconstruction. These are academic details and starting with the introductory part. Before that, I want to say that as a human being, what we see, what we experience, and what we think is reflected and manifested in our our surroundings, particularly in the buildings and architectural forms. And if we look into the history, we may find various examples to prove that. For example, in the literature and in the architecture, there is a close relationship we can observe in the history. If we take example of Gothic art, then we may find that Gothic art. Gothic, it was first as an architectural form, which was reflected in the castle and all that things, and which was later adapted into literature by writers like Anne Radcliffe and uh, Horace Walpole. So these writers have adapted these kind of things in abandoned castle in their works and all the things. And in currently we are living in the postmodern society, so we know that it is marked by the fragmentation and chaotic life. So this is getting reflected in the deconstructivist architecture. So, and this deconstructivist architecture is directly stems for the theory of deconstruction, which is a theory designates and practice of the subverting and undermining the claims that language can give us a coherent and unified meanings. So this is the unifiedness and coherenceness is one of the central theme in the deconstruction. And the deconstructivism, according to Zaha Hadid, who is also a prominent deconstructivist, uh, uh, says that deconstructivism as a artistic form comes directly from the ideas of the Algerian French philosopher Jacques Derrida. And Daniel Libeskind says in his words, I quote, deconstructivism is not style at all, but something in the air about the demise of former logic and former notion of harmony and former notion of beauty. Here the word are former logic and former notion of harmony and their demise. It is one of the important and analogy we can make analogy with the deconstructivist philosophy by Derrida also. So for today's my research question is how does the Derrida's theory of deconstruction influence the design principle and philosophical underpinnings of the deconstructivist architecture? And my hypothesis would be how Derrida's deconstruction theory, with its critique of fixed meanings and inversion of the hierarchical structure, signifies the shape deconstructivist architecture by its marked theme of fragmentation, asymmetry, and non-geometrical lines. So let us first have the overview of Derrida's deconstruction. Well, it is one of the central thing, that is binary opposition and inversion of the binary opposition. Well, binary opposition, which was first used by the cultural anthropologist Claude Levi-Strauss and subsequent structuralists like Ferdinand de Saussure, and they believed that there is in the binary opposition there is one superior and one inferior. But in the philosophy of Derrida, this binary opposition, first of all, the language have no meaning. The words have no meaning, or we can understand the word by relation to the other words. So binary opposition in this way becomes complementary to each other. So there is an inversion of hierarchy, which was later translated into the in the deconstructivist architecture. And as we know that deconstruction critiques the Western metaphysical tradition of presence. So in the philosophy of Derrida, he critiques the presence. He says that Western philosophy and Western traditions are always about the presence and not the absence. So it is one of the things that is taken into consideration by the architectural artists. And deconstruction rejects the idea of single and fixed center and meaning. And the word difference, which is made up of the two words, to differ and to differ, which means that we can understand one word in the relation to the other word. And this relation, we cannot find a signifier, a perpetual signifier. And this led us to the free play of meanings. And this also questioned the hierarchical structures in philosophies and long held and destabilizing the long held beliefs and conventions of the presence, identity, and certainty. So what is deconstructivist architecture. So it is emerged as one of the postmodern architectural techniques, which marked by its which marks by its nonlinear dynamics and the field's reasoning, which in deconstructivism translated Derrida's ideas by calling into questions the clean geometrical lines of the modernist in favor of the design that embraced fragmentation. And deconstructivism take inspiration from the two things. First, obviously, the philosophy of Derrida, and other thing, take inspiration from the Russian constructivists, who gave them inspiration to break the traditional norms of architecture and to employ something new in the form of architectural field. And it was in the 1988 that the first deconstructivist architectural exhibition was held in the New York Museum, in which there are various designers came from the world with their unique designs and all the things, which marked the rise of this particular movement. And there are key deconstructivists are Einsmann, Zaha Hadid, Koolhaas, Daniel Libeskind, and most prominently Bernard Schumy. Let us see the philosophical foundation of deconstructivism, in which the concept of deconstructing or breaking down is a central in the philosophy of Derrida, which is also employed to any cultural artifact or any literary text also. And by doing this, we can find what are the gaps, what are the voids, and what are the absences in that particular work. And by that, we can get the underlying and hidden meaning. And Derrida's resistance to fixed meanings and hierarchical systems inspired the deconstructivist movements, which in turn embraces the asymmetry and fragmentation, which are similar to Derrida's ideas. And as I've said, that Russian constructivists also inspired this movement. So in this picture, you can see the Tatlin Tower, which was designed by the Vladimir Tatlin. However, it is not a completed work, but still it was influenced the later generational designs. So, first work, Parc de la Villette. This is considered as one of the centralist work and one of the first work of deconstructivist architecture, which was crafted by or designed by Bernard Schumy, who is a Swiss designer, and it is located in the northern part of the Paris, and it is a kind of a large park which is spread into 55 hectares, and there are various subparts in that also, as you can see how much space it requires in that, and it is referred to as a 21st century urban social park. In that, the main thing about this, it is kind of a cultural icon in the Paris, and people from the various regions of the Paris come together and they socialize with each other, and they have conversation and all the things. And in this particular thing, there are various concert and fest and exhibitions are held. So it is in this way is kind of a urban social park. So move towards the other work, Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum, Bilbao. This is one of the iconic work or iconic building in this particular architectural form. This particular Bilbao Museum is located near the Basque region of the Spain, and is perhaps his most iconic building. This building in every year attracts the thousands of peoples, and this is a part of a larger economical scheme of Spain, and it is famous for its unique design and its non-geometrical designs, irregular and non-rectangular shapes. So yeah, this is the design of this. You can see how the curveness and non-linear style for which it is famous, and most of the body of this architecture is designed out of the titanium ore, and it is designed to see in the bright day it is seen as a bright, and in the dark it is seen as a dull. So it is that way it is constructed. And another architectural form if we see, it is a UFA Cinema Theater, which is located in Dresden, Germany, and it was created by Coop Himmelblau Company. And this is one of the also fascinating thing to behold in the deconstructivist architecture. And this building's design is visually striking and appealing. And instead of using the conventional form, it uses the unclear forms which are not recognizable, and they are using kind of a mixed and abstract ideas in creation of that. And the central and forefront theme of this is to people's and public's engagement. So you can see in this how it is uh, uh, done by in that, and how it is looking that like this. Daniel Lepskine's Jewish Museum, and it is located in Berlin, and it is one of my favorite architectural design. And its architect Daniel Levitsky says that it is a foreboding experience. And in his words, he says that that was my intent to creating a building that tells a story, not just an abstract set of walls and windows. So inside this building, this features a sharp shape, angled walls, and unusual openings that creates unsettling spaces. And this is particularly marked by erasure and voids. And behind this erasure and voids, there is Daniel Lepstein wanted to preserve the history of, and in a way wants to reflect the history of Jewish people who were massacred during the Holocaust, and their life after the Holocaust becomes kind of abstract and absent and void, and this is reflected in this work. So you can see here how it is zigzag in its form. And one particular thing about this, you can go into this particular thing by underground passage, and also it has been used for the for coming out from that, because the designer believes that it is the Jewish history